Welcome from the Royal Society of Canada to the COVID-19 Policy Briefing Cover Art Video Exposé. My name is Sean Caulfield, and I'm a visual artist and professor in the Department of Art and Design at the University of Alberta. I'm also a fellow in the Royal Society of Canada, and I'm speaking to you from Treaty 6 territory in my studio in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. The Royal Society of Canada is Canada's national academy and recognizes Canada's leading intellectuals, scholars, researchers, and artists, and by mobilizing them in open discussion and debate, advances knowledge, encourages integrated interdisciplinary understanding, and addresses issues that are critical to Canada and Canadians. The Royal Society of Canada recognizes that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships with the territories across the country and from coast to coast to coast. We are grateful to acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of the Inuit and First Nations and Métis peoples, and the dozens of languages and cultures that enrich what many call Turtle Island. The Royal Society of Canada established a task force on COVID-19 to equip Canadians with accurate information on the COVID-19 pandemic. A series of working groups rapidly developed over 20 policy briefings with the objective of supporting policymakers with evidence to inform their decisions. The COVID-19 task force also recognized the importance of the arts in understanding, coping with, and recovering from the impacts of the pandemic. These expert panels sought artwork from Canadians across the country that spoke to the themes addressed in the individual reports. Over 25 artists participated, and we have invited them to share their work and their stories. We are grateful for their contribution, and now let's hear from them.
Adlanate si Elaine suye, si sisten nate bedayine suye, dini nukwe naster, denehel begar kaze hesti ga hesti. Hello, my name is Leah Boglio, and my spirit name is Dreamweaver. I am from Dini Nukwe, and I am proud to be Métis and Dene. I am currently a medical student at Western University in London, Ontario, and I am also a full-time artist. I mainly create artwork digitally on my iPad, but I also paint with acrylic and ink and create beadwork jewelry. I create art using a style called woodland, which was founded in the 1970s by Norval Morrisseau, an Anishinaabe artist from Northern Ontario. The style features vivid colors, X-ray views of living things, and thick black outlining, and is often used to convey Indigenous oral history and worldview. The piece which I created for the Royal Society report on COVID-19 and the health and well-being of Indigenous peoples is named Saha Ganarilia, which means we are standing beside the sun. I created this piece during a period of the COVID-19 pandemic when I was given the opportunity to live in my home community, Dini Nukwe, for 6 months, something which I have not done since leaving home for university. During this time, I was able to reconnect with my family, both human and non-human, and was reminded of what's important to me and what I'm working towards. While I was in my community, I saw all of our vulnerabilities to COVID, like lack of emergency medical transportation, high rates of comorbidities, and our very high elder population. But I also saw the resiliency of my people too, how we all love and look out for one another, something that I had missed desperately during my time in the South. And I think that when we are examining Indigenous health and well-being, it is important to keep both perspectives in mind. Our vulnerability and our resiliency, our isolation and our relationality, our past and our future. This is what I tried to capture in this piece. After medical school, I plan to return to my home territory and my family to practice medicine. And if you would like to see more of my art or contact me, you can follow me on Instagram at dream.weaver.art or like my page on Facebook at Dreamweaver Art, or check out my website, which is also called dreamweaverart.ca. Massey, thank you.
My name is Christine Diono, and I am a visual artist living in Guelph, Ontario, situated on Treaty 3 territory, ancestral home of the Mississaugas of the Credit and Anishinaabe peoples. As a multimedia artist, I have used a variety of approaches in my work, including installation and sculpture, which can be seen on my website at www.christinediono.com. My work is conceptually based, and I often focus on the transitions we face in life, especially our need for emotional care as individuals and in our communities. Currently, I am working towards my Master's of Fine Art at the University of Waterloo. The work I submitted to the Royal Society of Canada grew out of my time working as a housekeeper in a long-term care facility during the first wave of the pandemic. In this early period, COVID-19 was severely affecting senior populations in long-term care, prompting the province to fund more care and cleaning staff in residential homes. In the facility I worked, the lockdown rules were successful in keeping the residents free from the virus, but the side effect was the devastating emotional toll of being denied any visitors from family, friends, or volunteers. I was there at a time when the residents who used to have daily or weekly visits from loved ones suddenly experienced the isolation of having no visitors for months. For those with dementia, it was particularly difficult. Suddenly, the care and calming effects that visitors provided were taken away, which created more care needs at a time when staff were already working harder in a much more stressful environment. The media was full of stories from family members and caregivers telling us about the problems and stressors occurring due to this quarantine. But I think it is important to point out that this isolation has been a problem faced by many elderly within our society on a chronic and routine basis before the pandemic. This piece, made from identical bars of soap, represents the universal approach to all residents. Out of each bar of soap, I carved a unique human figure that I placed in a mason jar, which in turn was placed on a shelf. As a completed work, there are 100 jars to view, allowing us to look in on the miniature elderly figures who look out at us. I chose soap to carve because of the focus inside the long-term care home was to keep the residents' environment as clean as possible, even though the lack of emotional care and connection to loved ones was causing distress. With this work, I wanted to highlight the disparity between simply keeping people alive over supporting lives that are worth living. If you would like to see more of my work, you can follow me on Instagram under Christine Diono or visit my website, www.christinediono.com. Thank you for your attention.
Hi, my name is Elaine Darkoch. I am an artist in Qualicum Beach on Vancouver Island. I love painting flowers, sunsets, and our beautiful scenery and pets. I usually paint in acrylics, but also have done some watercolor too. I have been painting seriously in about 10 years. And I have been inspired by my teachers, Vancouver Island and in Maui. We put some of my favorite paintings on cards and calendars for friends and family and cousins. Elaine here again. I love Christmas, and I love to paint winter scenes with lots of snow. Here are some of my favorite winter paintings whenever I can add snow to a painting. I think it makes a beautiful piece of art. Here is Penguins on Ice, my very favorite.
Hello, my name is Liz Ingram. I'm an artist and I'm now in my studio in Edmonton, Alberta. I worked at the University of Alberta as a professor in art and design for 41 years teaching, and am now retired, but still working on my artwork. My ideas revolve around the relationship between matter and the ephemeral. And I've been working with those ideas for many, many years, both in the studio and also out at a place in the boreal forest where I spend a lot of time both photographing and filming. I'm interested in the idea that we are actually all one, that we're permeable, that we are not separated from what surrounds us. And particularly, I've used water as the kind of overriding metaphor for the other, although we are made of water to a great extent. This print is a very large print that was created a number of years ago. And again, dealing with how we are totally interconnected, not separate, but portrayed as one, the human body in relationship to water and the surrounding nature. This piece that I'm coming to now is a light box piece that was produced a number of years ago. And it also very much portrays water becoming body, body becoming water. They are very, very interconnected in this piece. There's no separation. They are one. This kind of work has helped me with my own personal situation because 8 years ago I was diagnosed with lung cancer, and it was a poor prognosis. So working on my own artwork has really helped me to deal with ideas about end-of-life decisions and the changes that are taking place in terms of how we can deal with end-of-life decisions is really important to me. So I'm very thankful for the Royal Society of Canada giving me the opportunity to use my work on the cover of this particular topic.
Hi, I'm Anthony, and this is my video Exposé. Today I plan to give you a little bit of insight into my artistic practice and tell you what it's like to be an artist in COVID times. To start off, I would like to share my gratitude and thank the Royal Society of Canada for featuring my artwork on the cover of their February 2022 policy briefing. I would also like to thank my professor Elaine Sova for her amazing class titled COVID-19 Responsive Art, which allowed students to experiment and create work in response to the pandemic. Elaine has carefully curated our culminating exhibition entitled Pathogen Error. If you get a chance to check it out online, I highly recommend it. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Anthony Magnani, and I'm an artist residing in Toronto, Ontario. I'm a recent OCAD graduate, majoring in integrated media. The themes I am currently working with are delusion, disillusion, memory, autonomy, posthumanism, and concealment. I originally wanted to document the pandemic from a commercial land point of view, but as I was working with the photographs, I noticed something more interesting happening in the foreground. My idea for this project was to depict the claustrophobic state of anxiety that was permeating through the air in the early days of COVID-19. The sheer lack of accurate information regarding this virus contributed heavily to the paranoia. The fundamental desire to protect the lives of ourselves and our families was kicked into high gear, and we began to look for solutions. These solutions, however, were to come with some unintended consequences, such as extreme awareness regarding our surroundings. Fearful of any muffled voices or coughs, we began to minimize our own viral signature as much as possible. We were afraid to go outside, afraid to see our family. We were scared of the unknown, and that is where I found my inspiration. Trying to perfect the image, I decided on a monochromatic color space to communicate the lack of information and dramatic nature of consequences surrounding the pandemic. I tried to depict the experience of navigating the unknown. I asked the viewer, what would it look like, what would it sound like if the virus were to get worse? Would we devolve into chaos, or would we rise to the occasion? Thanks for watching my video, and I hope to see you again soon.
Hello, I'm Patrick Mann. I'm a professor of visual arts at Western University and also a fellow of the Royal Society of Canada. I was trained as a printmaker, and so much of my artwork tends to rely on the kinds of techniques I learned doing my training. That said, I do focus on themes such as the environment, communication, and decolonization, and so I like to allow my material choices to be determined by the specifics of the project that I'm working on. I think visual arts has the wonderful capacity to deal effectively with complexity. And that means it can elicit our feelings as well as our thoughts on the matter that it intends to highlight. My work that was featured on a report from the Royal Society of Canada is from a series that I entitled Messengers Forum. I was thinking about public communication and information systems, and so you might find that the work resembles something like a satellite or technological tool. But I think of that as an illusion. It's not an illustration. I hope that art can encourage openness and dialogue, especially in these times when we can be so divided by our ideas and attitudes that are circumscribed and closed. Thanks.
Tensei, welcome. My name is Phyllis Poitras Jarrett. I live in Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada. I am a contemporary Métis artist. My focus is on Indigenous worldview. I have a love of nature, and it's portrayed in all of the animals, spirit animals that I paint. Each of them stands for a different human value. And focusing on these values help us understand ourselves better and move forward on Earth in a positive direction. We are here to be stewards of Mother Earth. And in order to maintain a balance with all living things, we have to ensure the health of the planet. Ensuring the health of the planet ensures survival of all living things. We need fresh water. We need clean air, we need healthy, wholesome foods to live off of, and this is what Mother Earth provides us. And this is why Indigenous people have such a close relationship and respect for nature and Mother Earth. My Métis-inspired art celebrates diversity in nature, represented by all of the different animal motifs. Right now, I'm working on a series of 30. I'm at 24 right now. Also represented by the beautiful, symmetrical, and colorful Métis beadwork within each animal. In my art, the spirit animals represent basic human values that each of us have within ourselves. Embracing these values will create conditions for our lights to shine bright on our journeys here on Earth. This creates time for us to look beyond ourselves and notice that Mother Nature has always provided us with an abundance of gifts such as food, water, and clean air. The gray background and white flowers represent the greater universe. Hidden within the background is a glass bead. Within traditional Métis beadwork was an off-color or a misplaced bead within the beadwork designs. The spirit bead in my paintings represents humanity's disruptive imperfections. This reminds us that each day we have the opportunity to improve ourselves for the betterment of all of our relations. Our health depends on the planet's health, Mother Earth has always provided these abundant gifts. But we must realize that we are the stewards of Mother Earth. And we must make sure that Mother Earth's health is priority, because it will come down to us eventually. Within Canada, we have over 50 beautiful Indigenous nations, each with their own unique cultures, beliefs, and practices. The deep respect that Indigenous people have with nature has been around for thousands of years. It is woven into their kinship systems, such as in clans, into storytelling, into ceremonial practices. It is woven into every area of their life when they live in a traditional way. Like most artists, my art is shaped by my experiences, from my past, from my present, from my cultural background, and from my love of nature. I was fortunate to grow up on a farm near a lake, so I was always surrounded by nature. I often went on long hikes, and I was always looking for a glimpse of an animal or a beautiful wildflower or a wonderful bird. I am one of 6 siblings, so we had a very busy household. Farm children are farm hands. So to escape all the noise, I would go upstairs in front of a small window, and there I would draw for hours and hours. And this is where I began having an interest and a love for art. And my subjects in art were, you guessed it, animals and plants. Art will always bring us together to celebrate our unique cultures and to gain a better understanding of our past and present realities. When humankind recognizes we are the stewards of Mother Earth, we will begin restoring balance and harmony and health to all living things here on Earth. My art is dedicated to all of the Indigenous beadwork crafters, to our aunties, to our kokums, to our ancestors, to those that are reclaiming this beautiful crafting technique from years ago.
My name is Andrea Sang-Jackson, and I'm a textile artist and quilt designer based in Chibuktuk, Halifax. I have a creative business under the name Third Story Workshop alongside my art practice. In my creative business, I design quilts, quilt patterns for other quilters to make, as well as teach workshops. And in my art practice, my work uses the language of quilt making, is deeply informed by research and story, and seeks to articulate ideas in different visual and material ways, all tied together by textiles. It takes on many forms, including animation, cross-disciplinary collaboration, for example with musicians and a weaver, as well as public art. The Here and Elsewhere Bee, created in 2017, is featured on the cover of the Royal Society report supporting Canada's COVID-19 resilience and recovery through robust immigration policy and programs. It was the output of my artist residency at the Canadian Museum of Immigration at Pier 21, where I collected almost 1,200 quilt blocks made by museum visitors. Each quilt block shares a unique immigration story, a narrative of someone, whether that story was 10 years old, 50 years old, or 300 years old. Through this vast collection of stories, I saw common threads: love, family, culture, work, agriculture, new opportunities, and a search for peace. I saw these stories as my raw material, and I sculpted them into the final work, which measures almost 10 feet by 10 feet. In the future, I would like to see textile and traditionally domestic arts continue to have a resonant presence in the public realm. You can find me at thirdstoryworkshop.com or on Instagram at thirdstoryworkshop.